Today we are joined by Tim Petrey of Davis CPAs. Petrey was among a group of professionals the Business Journal spoke with in our Growth Report 2022 about the issues facing businesses this year. Well, Tim, thank you very much for coming in today. So we're going to be talking about some issues facing businesses going into 2022. Something you talked about in our growth report. Obviously, there are supply chain issues. We have a labor shortage going on. It is a very competitive market out there for employees.
Yep.
We have rising prices and the pandemic. So I guess the bottom line for a lot of businesses is the bottom line. How do they weather all of these challenges, and what advice are you giving to clients of yours?
It certainly seems like it's the ultimate perfect storm, right? Any and everything that could be attacking your bottom line is happening right now. I think the key for everybody right now is just having the right systems in place to be able to pay attention and adapt and change as things continue to change. I think now more than ever.
You say systems, I immediately think additional expense.
Yes and no.
Sure.
I mean, I think that the idea for me, especially in our field, is giving people the right resources to be able to track all the right stuff. Sometimes it's not an additional expense. Sometimes it's just better managing the one you have.
Okay.
We deal with people that use all kinds of different accounting and ERP systems, and they're using 10% of its capabilities. So that's where you start, is you go in and you address the low-hanging fruit. You clean up the stuff you can control today. You make sure that your job costing is right if you're in the construction industry, and you're able to pay attention to what you bid versus what you actually got to bill at the end, and comparing the two, and working on ways to improve your process about how you do bidding. So that way you're not losing money on some of those projects because lumber went up by 60%, or you're changing how your contracts are written so that you can better bid some of those jobs. But to me, the core foundation of all of it, naturally, is accounting, right? Is to make sure that you have systems that can account for those things so that you can adapt. And I could give you that answer for every single one of them. It's making sure that your materials and your costs are tracked appropriately. It's making sure that you're tracking your labor cost appropriately so you're charging the right price to people. At the end of the day, it's very simple on our end. When it comes to this stuff, it's a matter of being able to follow it all the way down, right? It's a matter of saying, okay, well, inflation's out of control and we're paying 40% more for X, Y, and Z for our materials, for whatever we're selling. We need to make sure that we're passing that cost along to the end user, to the customer. You've got to be careful, though, is that can you always pass all those costs along? Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you're not able to pass all those costs down to the customer, and you've got to adapt your system so that you're paying the right things, you're negotiating your prices, you're paying your employees appropriately, and you're doing all those things correctly, because sometimes the answer that people try to implement is, well, let's just raise our prices to cover everything.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't always work out well, because there is elasticity that you have to worry about. At some point in time, people will not buy what you're selling.
So how do you find that balance, or how do you know when the time is right in this situation to raise some prices, or is that a service or a product that you decide in this climate to discontinue or to do away with?
Yeah, it's a constant process. And realistically, it's something that people should have been doing prior to the pandemic. It just brought it to the forefront now. People should be testing elasticity constantly with their product. We'll have conversations with people all day long. We'll go to this deli or restaurant down the street, and they're selling sandwiches, for $6, right? And we go and we sit down with that business owner and we say, is your sandwich better than the sandwich that I could buy at the gas station or at Walmart or at this, that, or the other thing?
Right.
And they'll look at me like I'm crazy. I'll say, well, of course it is. Why are you charging less? Right? So why am I paying more for a pepperoni roll at Sheetz than the one that you just handmade and is 10 times better? right? This was pre-pandemic. People weren't paying close enough attention to what they were charging for stuff.
Right.
So now it brings it all to the forefront. Is you don't have a choice. You have to pay attention because it will eat completely away at your bottom line. And if you're not adapting your prices and negotiating your costs better, then all of a sudden you get to the end of the year and there's no money left. And if you're not paying attention to that now, it happens really quick.
Is this in many ways forcing businesses, forcing their hand to do things, implement best practices that perhaps they should have been doing all along and will ultimately benefit them in the long run if they adopt them now?
Absolutely. I mean, I think especially locally, we're always kind of slow to adapt here, right? You've got your trends of West Coast, East Coast in, right? And we just so happen to be kind of the last stop on that in conversation. Right. So I remember early on in my career, and this wasn't that long ago, this was a decade ago, I'm still transitioning people away from like DOS programs.
Oh boy.
that were no longer supported after 1995.
Sure.
So I mean, we're a little slow to adopt around here. We know what we like, we continue to do that. But I think now it's forcing people's hands and it's allowing them to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't do this 5 years ago. And I can't believe how many of those conversations I've had with clients where we implement a new system for them. We build out a new accounting platform or we build a new process for them. And all of a sudden we've saved them 6 hours a week. They spent a little bit of money to do it, but we gave them 6 hours a week back. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, oh, what a blessing this was. I wish we would have done this before, but the pandemic forced them to do it.
Right.
But it ended up being something that is much better in the end.
What types of businesses, big, small, are coming to you with these issues?
I mean, everybody's issue is the same. I mean, the core foundation, the core problem that every business has in common right now is people. Is getting good people to come to work.
Sure.
For whatever reason, I haven't put my finger on where all these people are at.
If you had the answer, that would be great.
That would be awesome. I feel like we'd have a lot of views on this video if I could answer that question. But I think that it's also forced people to take a look at their culture. Right? So I think that every business has a people problem. I don't care how big or small you are. You have 2 employees or 2,000 employees. I promise you got a people problem if you weren't paying attention to this prior to the pandemic.
Right.
And it's forced people's hand to try new things, to implement new cultural things in their place, or like we talked about in the example of charging the right price for your food at restaurants. It allows you to pay your people more, which is the core of a lot of those fundamental labor problems. Being able to pay people appropriately is a big deal. No matter what. People will put up with a lot if they're paid appropriately.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So we know that's an easy one. The other one's purpose. Right. The other one is really truly looking at what you're doing and identifying the purpose that brings to your life. All right. And it could be, I'll give you the example in our world. We're accountants. Okay. We help people with taxes. We help people make money. We have found our own little niche to be coaches to people, to work with people to improve their businesses. That's how we find our purpose, is that we can improve the quality of their life. We can improve how they're going about their life, how much they like going to work by helping them charge the right price for their services, cost out their products appropriately, and so on and so forth. So you've got money, purpose, flexibility. Right, and flexibility is the big one that COVID has brought to light, and it's hard. I mean, it's not easy to transition from 9 to 5 in the office to our work environment, which is most of our employees. This sounds weird. Work 9 in the morning till 9 at night. Mm-hmm. Okay, but let me break that down for you. It's not 9 to 5, right? 9 in the morning, you get up. You check some of your emails in the morning, you get your kids on the bus, you have breakfast with them, you hang out with them in the morning, right? After that, you get a couple hours in, you work through whatever projects you've got, you're emailing your team, you're emailing your clients, then you've got lunch. You have lunch with your family, you have lunch at home, you have lunch wherever you gotta go, you get whatever you need to get done in that period of time, then you get a few more things done in the afternoon, a few hours there. Then you stop at 4 or 5 o'clock. And you take an hour or two and you eat dinner with your family and you watch the news with your friends, you play with your kids, you go to their events, you do that thing, and then you're back on again checking emails. You're still putting in an 8-hour day.
Right.
It's just different. It's just spread out differently. And if you don't have the infrastructure to support that, it doesn't work.
Right.
Because if your infrastructure is there to support a 9-to-5, and you want people to have that autonomy to be able to go and live their lives and work together, it doesn't work. So you've got to make that big investment into your systems and your infrastructure to be able to support people to be able to work spread out and work in this new environment, because that's what people will continue to demand.
Well, it's interesting because right before the pandemic, the big kind of thing were those co-work spaces, and let's get everybody together, and everyone's going to be in the same room, and we're all going to collaborate and bounce ideas on. And then the pandemic happened, and it was keep everybody apart. And now it's almost, like let everybody go home. Do you know what I mean? It's just such whiplash.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting combination. I mean, so first and foremost, we're in the process of renovating our new office space, right? And there was nothing more stressful in the middle of the pandemic than buying a substantial piece of real estate. For that reason in particular, like, do I need it? Do I not need it? What, you know? And through a variety of conversations, we realized that people still need a space to collaborate. Like, if you need your private space and you want to just do your thing, you can work from home. You can work from the coffee shop. But at the end of the day, we're social beings. We need that to find that purpose and to enjoy what we do. We still need to have some space to collaborate. So I think that some of the changes to people's work environments will be is that the office is a place where we collaborate, where we share ideas, where we work through stuff together. But if you need that private one-on-one time where I have a day full of Zooms, why do I need to show up to the office? Why should I bother putting pants on today? I'm going to stay home with my webcam. I'm Zooming. What do you care?
No.
So I think that that's part of the process that isn't going anywhere, and I think that everyone will slowly adapt to that.
Yeah. So I guess, how do a lot of businesses right now just struggling to keep their heads above water? How do you not only maintain your bottom line, but also start to grow your business? A lot of businesses, they're just trying to get through the daily operations. They don't have time for R&D, for looking at all of those things that potentially could help them grow 5-10 years into the future. How do you still keep those goals and work towards those goals during all of what's going on right now?
Man, I think that right now there's been this tremendous realization about goals in particular about your business, right? Because I recall a conversation with one of my good friends and clients many years ago. We walked into his business and he hated his life. He was miserable. Wasn't making any money, was struggling. Exactly the description you're giving me is he just was struggling in perpetuity, right? I walked in, I sat down with him and I said, well, if you're gonna be miserable, why don't you at least try something you like doing? Just see what happens, right? As it turns out, that business model was way better because now he enjoys doing the other stuff. And he has a much more successful business as a result.
He closed the business. Make money now?
Now he makes a ton of money.
Okay,
but at the time it was like, okay, you can be miserable and not make any money, or you can enjoy your life and not make any money. Worst case scenario, right? Best case scenario is you like what you're doing and you can actually make some money because you like what you're doing. So I think that idea is forcing people to reevaluate and look at it and say, okay, well, my business is struggling right now, and I've already done the things that we've mentioned. I've already raised my prices. I've already tested my elasticity. I've already chopped down my costs as low as they can go, and I'm still not making any money. Now's the time. You've got a time where the ability to kind of start fresh and create your do-over situation might be forced upon you, which in a lot of circumstances might be the best thing that ever happened to you.
If you would like to read more on this topic, you can do so in our Growth Report 2022. Click subscribe at businessjournaldaily.com. There you can find a list of our plans and choose which one is right for you.
717 Credit Union. Business services designed to meet your daily needs. Commercial loans, business deposits, merchant and payroll services. 717 Credit Union. It's knowing you were treated right every time.